everyone, welcome to our very first official episode of Two Friendless Friends. My name is Flora and we have Kelly also on the show. So hopefully you enjoyed our introduction, which was uploaded a week ago, and if you haven't checked that out yet, we'll have it linked into the description as well as hopefully on the screen somewhere if we can get it figured out. And if you have any suggestions, like we said at the end of our introduction episode, on how to improve or certain topics that you want us to talk about, just let us know in the description box, the comments I should say. So before we begin our actual topic, we should just catch you up on what's been going on in our lives recently. So Kelly, what have you been doing this past week?
I mean, we got results for our first year of uni, our overall final results. Term 3 results and then our overall final WAM for first year, and haha, that was fun. Especially when there's technical difficulties and the results don't come out at the scheduled time.
Oh yeah, I waited 2 hours for me to get my results, and I was really nervous because I just want to transfer into science, and I wasn't sure if I was going to make it because of my course, and I was just really nervous about that.
I was honestly scared about not passing one of my courses, but then I just checked Moodle and I saw my result there and I was like, why is it here? So I knew my actual result a few days before.
But you were happy with yours, right?
Yeah, I was pretty happy. I knew that there was this one course that was gonna drag me down no matter what, and I think I just was okay, I need to pass this so I don't have to redo it because I refuse to do this course again. I hated it, and I was yeah, I just need to pass this one. The rest, the stuff that I actually care about, I want to do well in. But if it's just a compulsory course and it's a one-off thing, if you don't do that well, it's okay to have that one lower mark and you just learn from it in general.
Yeah.
So yeah, that one low mark, I think part of me was really sad, but the other part of me was does it even matter to me after this? It really doesn't.
Yeah, because especially since we're first years, it does make sense if we have an outlay of a low mark because it's understandable. Plus I think I mean, I don't know how considerate they are at when you mean it doesn't really matter, do you mean in terms of our final mark or when you're getting hired?
I think because overall we finished 100 and something units, and this is just 6 units of that.
Yeah.
And it's also a course that's not really related to a job I want to do in the future as well. That will be taken into consideration as well. So I think I can live with it.
Okay,
there's nothing wrong with having a low mark. And at the end of the day, it wasn't even that low.
Okay, that's good.
I'd say. I know people around me that have had lower marks and people that have had fails on their transcript, and it's still okay.
This actually places us in a really good transition into the topic that we actually had planned for this week's episode, which is all about the transition from high school to uni and our expectations on that. So did you always have this kind of attitude towards marks? It doesn't really matter in the long run, especially in HSC?
I think you can consider me to be your typical straight A student, from high school.
Yeah.
I was kind of 80. I have to get 80% and above. If it's below that, it's not really acceptable for me in high school. And then I think there was just this realization that it's not the same in uni. The marking system is just not the same. And you're going to have to do a lot of core courses that won't be related to your major, and they're not going to all be your strengths. And you just have to accept that you're never going to be as good as some people at that. And that's okay because you have other strengths to balance you out. And it's just like the marking system for uni, the actual like, it's so much harder to get high marks. Like, I think for someone that got 90s in high school, getting a 90 in like uni is very different.
Yeah, honestly, like that's one of the things that I wasn't really prepared for, and like not many people really talked about, I think, is like the marking system in uni. I think it's really flawed because they changed the courses up a lot, and I think but they don't change the way that they mark. So someone who did the same course like last term may have gotten like 90 easily, and I could be like performing academically like around the same level, but I could be getting like 60 in that same course just because of the way that like who it's run by, because I think it changes, right? And just the way like the assignments works and stuff.
Yeah, and like I think there's also this kind of weird expectation. Like in high school, everyone's averaging around an 80, like no matter what school you went to. I think I think like the averages at school, the average marks at school are really different.
I mean, I don't think the average for our school was 80-ish. Maybe like some.
I'm not sure, because I think like average at my school was like 80 something.
Right, okay. That's good.
And like it's just like you have to face the reality that most people get credits in uni. Like not everyone's going to be getting your high distinction on every single course, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
And it's just, yeah, you go in, you expect straight A's, you're not gonna get straight A's unless you're a genius. That's all I'll say.
I do think that a lot of people can relate to this when I say that their expectations really lowered from high school to uni, because I also like wanted to, like my expectations, not that I really always reached it, but like it would be at least like an 80 sounds nice. And at uni now it's like, I guess like 75 plus, I would say, which is in the distinction range, isn't it?
Yeah, I'd say like I want my WAM to be in the 80s range no matter what. Like that's distinction to a high distinction, but I'm not expecting anything above 90 from myself, like honestly.
I think I'm fluctuating between like I don't actually know, because like I started off this year at like 73 and now I'm like 79. So, but I do think that like I don't think that the way that I performed in term 1 was a good representation of how like well I knew my stuff. Or more like just the course was weird, okay? Yeah. I'm going to blame the course and not me.
Blame the course and not yourself.
That's the way to go. Weird. If anyone who has taken Arts 1090 will tell you that it's the weirdest. Like, it doesn't make sense at all. There were so many readings that there were like a lot of readings every week. I didn't do them. You know what? That's probably why. But it was like I don't know.
You should have seen me in Table 1710. I didn't do anything. But that's probably why I was like barely passing.
No, but you did the notes, didn't you?
No. I gave up after week 3.
Also, like something else that I found different between high school and uni is that like the way that I studied, and I guess like note making, because I didn't make any notes before uni. Before uni. I didn't really make notes. I kind of just learnt off like just like classes, I guess, like tutoring.
I think high school was like, less like having to make notes and more of like learning as you go and just not I think, like, it's just the content in high school was a lot easier to get away with not having notes.
I don't think it's content. I think it was like the workload though, because like it would be one textbook for the entire year basically, right? And every single week you would learn a bit, and you know, like you would get like homework that might be like assigned to you, or like just some questions that you had to do. Like I remember for business studies, we always had to do like essays, and I did a lot more essays than required. So I learned a lot of the content through the essays that I did. It's kind of weird, but like I would find questions that I didn't really know how to answer. So I kind of learned the content through that, which honestly probably isn't a good idea because you should know your content before. But like, anyway, I did learn a lot of, like through the work that I did. But in a lot of courses now, you aren't necessarily required to do any like weekly quizzes or even like work to ensure that you really understand what's happening. And even like sometimes they might give you like quizzes, but it's done in such a way that like well, for me anyway, it's like easier to cheat and just look off notes and like actually trying to learn.
Oh yeah, it's like, because yeah, you can have your notes right next to you. I think in uni, like, the workload is so much bigger because, like, yeah, you're learning less courses because in high school you're learning like every subject at the same time, but in uni it's like in high school, if you would have like, you only get to do like part of a chapter in 1 week or so. But in uni, it's like multiple chapters in a week if you're going through a textbook.
Basically.
Like, if you're lucky, yeah, maybe that week would be just one chapter. But usually it's multiple chapters. And I do computer science, and that's one of the easier ones because as a course, it's not as easy. But most of the work is about practice. And they do give you the opportunity to practice. So that was like nicer than working from a textbook.
And when they do give like a lot of chapters per week, it kind of like, it gets to a point where you just kind of take the easy route out, I think, where you just find ways to...
You can find summaries online, like, honestly.
You really can, because I think like if in my head, I see it as like a bell curve kind of thing, where like there's an optimum level of work that should be given to each student, which motivates them to actually learn what they're given. But when you exceed that point, the students they're just going to find like methods that will make it just easier for them to just get through what they're doing rather than actually learning. And
I think I got to that point many times this year.
Yeah, especially like in the psych courses that I was taking last term, I was given so many chapters, and I don't think I tried. I definitely went into the finals with the mentality that I would just Control F my entire way through, which honestly, though, like where
you can for an open book.
I mean, you know, they said not to, but when it's online like this and in this kind of like environment where there's no one really monitoring us and we do have the ability to, I think it's almost silly.
Your brain takes the easy route.
Like, you're putting yourself at a disadvantage if you don't do that, I think. Because you know people are going to do that. Even if you put like a disclaimer, like, make sure you don't cheat, don't use your notes. Like, people are still going to do that if you don't actually like force them not to through like...
I think like
I don't know.
Uni has given up on making us do closed book exams. Like, all of my exams... Oh no, I had one closed book exam, and honestly, there was no time to open a book anyway. Like, it was my computer science exam, and like, there was literally no time. Like, you just write your code. Like, you don't have time to go back and check like old code and stuff. Like, I think that was my only closed book exam. The other two were open book, and that was okay.
They did try, I think, at the beginning, but there were a lot of ethical issues about like monitoring us, and
Examity got hacked.
Oh, did it? I thought it was just
I
about...
think it got hacked, and it was like, it's just an issue with privacy. Like, if they aren't able to store like stuff like the recordings of us doing our exams safely, then that's like that goes down a really bad path, and the uni would rather not risk that.
Yeah. Also, I don't know if we ever mentioned before what we were studying, if that makes it relevant. But I'm currently doing Bachelor of Commerce.
And I'm doing a Bachelor of Commerce in Computer Science.
I actually started off with media, PR and advertising, moved on to Bachelor of Commerce and trying to get into Bachelor of Commerce / Science. Except like, you know how comp sci com is like the most...
It's one of the bigger ones. It's one of the ones with most people in it.
But it sounds the exact same as commerce science. So that's why I have to say commerce science, because people are going to think it's like comp sci. Yeah.
I mean, and there's also the fact that you have to stay in uni 1 year longer because you transfer.
Oh, yeah. Because I didn't know too much about like transferring. And that's actually something I wanted to bring up, because either I didn't talk to enough people about this, or people just didn't... It's not like a very well-known thing. But when I first... At the start of the year, I knew I wanted to... Well, I thought my final destination in terms of degree would be commerce. And
marketing,
yeah. And what I should have done, even though I was enrolled into a completely different degree, I should have just taken the commerce courses. Even though...
Oh, yeah, because your media units wouldn't transfer
Exactly.
over.
Like, even if your current degree that you're studying in right now doesn't have, like, gen eds, or it doesn't have... Or you've either used up all... Oh, sorry. If it doesn't have, like, space for you to pick courses that are outside of your current degree, or if you've used up all those spaces, I think it's a smart idea to still like pick courses that are going to be in your degree that you want to transfer into. But I only think that this strategy works if you're confident that you will get into your degree.
And it's also like you should do that if you're trying to transfer into a double degree, because that's when you don't have your gen eds. But if you're transferring to a single degree, the units from your previous degree could be used as your gen eds for your current degree. I think like it's just a bit risky, and it's like if you're willing to take the risk.
Do you want to explain what gen eds are?
So gen eds are like general education, and it's just like you're encouraged to take units outside of your own faculty. And so, like, it's like kind of the idea to give you a more well-rounded education. But the number of gen eds you can take per
degree
changes for like each. Like, I think I have a friend who's going to data science, and she only has 2 gen eds. So like it's very different for everyone, and you have to make sure that you don't do too many level 1 courses and stuff like that, because some degrees will have those restrictions.
Yeah. They have like I only found this out recently, but your uni should have like some progression plan or like some help system if you're unsure.
You can call up your like the student hub, or like your faculty's advisors and stuff to find out anything.
Yeah.
Or a really good idea, if you don't really want to call like people, you could talk to friends that you have or people that you know in the same degree.
Yeah.
Or like just people that you know, because it's really helpful to have someone like even just a year above you to help you with stuff, I think.
Yeah, because I've definitely, like, comparing what I know now compared to what I knew same time last year, it's a really big difference.
I mean, let's just say first things is if someone can teach you how to make a timetable, that's the best thing. or else your timetable sucks. My timetable for first term this year was so bad.
What's a good timetable then?
I try to go to uni as few days as possible and try to put everything together.
Right. And because
it's really, that's more important for people that have work though.
And travel time, because a lot of people do, it does waste a lot of time and money.
I mean, right now there's no travel time because we're corona.
A lot of unis now, and so a lot of unis now will only do in-person tutorials but not lectures. So if you can, I would suggest like putting all the tutorials onto one day, which is a common advice that was given to me by a lot of people. It just makes it easier, I think.
And it makes it easier for yourself because like, you kind of dedicate this one day to you being tired as heck after uni. And every other day you're just like consistently working through your work. Like I think one of the biggest differences from high school to uni was high school was so easy to do stuff last minute. Like it was actually so much easier to just like look over stuff a week or 2 weeks before your exam, start writing notes like in the holidays before your exam because your exam's like week 2 of school or something.
Sorry, is 1 week last minute? 1 week, 2 weeks?
If it's an exam block.
Okay, right. But I would assume that like looking over just means like revising, right? But if it's uni, when you only have 10 weeks, 1 and 2 weeks is like, that's really precious time, right?
Yeah, I think uni you can get, if you actually sit down and work, you can get so much done in a week. But I would not recommend trying to learn like 10 weeks worth of content in 1 week. Because there's just so much more content covered. Like I think uni really pushes you to be just a tiny bit more consistent in your work. Like just like make sure that you do like at least a tiny bit. Yeah, I always end up having like some things at the end that I leave to the last minute. But I've noticed that I spread out my work a lot better than I did in high school.
I do think though that at UNSW we do go by trimesters, so 10 weeks, most degrees anyway, except for med, I think. Is that the only degree?
Yeah. I think med's the only one that's still on semester.
Anyway, so like you don't really I don't feel like we really get a break for trimesters. It kind of just feels like one after the other, because normally there's like around 3 major assessments you do, like if we wanted to average it out, but every course can be a bit different. Whereas like for high school you did have the privilege of like having that break because a term,
you had like, it was like a term apart at least.
Exactly.
Like some schools only did yearlies and half yearlies. And like the term tests were just topic tests and stuff that no one really studied that much for.
Exactly.
And
like I said before, you did have like some homework that you were given, which would have helped like jog your memory. And so like whatever you learned in that day or week would have stayed in your mind a bit longer.
Yeah. Like I think uni, like your weekly work, it doesn't exist for some courses. For some courses you do have it. And weekly work is good in the sense that it makes you keep up to date.
Yeah.
But like also poorly organized weekly work means that you could easily just Command F and do it instead of actually learning, because that's what I did for management.
Oh yeah.
And I did not know anything when like the final assessment was due, but it was okay because it wasn't assessing every single topic. It was just the ones that I chose. So I only studied 2 weeks worth of content for that final assessment.
Wait.
That was a hand-in
What's
anyway.
the assessment for management?
It was like, wasn't it the last thing to hand in was I don't know, that was the logbook. Yeah, I didn't have logbook. Didn't even need me to do any studying, but like
So for one of our courses,
the video we chose you choose two topics, so like it was I only needed to study the topic I needed to cover.
So for one of our courses that we both did together last term, in term 2, we had a management course, which there was like a weekly component called like logbooks, which asked you a question, I think like a case study question, or
it's like a reflection kind of thing.
Yeah, a reflection on it could be like personal things, or it could be about like directly about the course content,
but or like reflection on feedback that you've gotten as well.
Oh yeah, but you always have to relate it back to the course content, which I did find helpful. But I would say so management also had a weekly like
adaptive reading, so like textbook reading and like
a true quiz and false ABCD multiple choice quiz that you just, there was no it was like really consequences bad to that if you got it wrong, because you could redo it unlimited times.
If you spell a word weirdly or spell a word wrong, then you get the question wrong and they give you another one.
Yeah, like it was marked, but it took your best mark and you had unlimited times to redo it. So it wasn't
even redoing it, it's like one go. If you get something wrong, they just give you another question until you get all the marks to get full marks. So as long as you like finish your attempt, that's 3 marks for you
basically. And you end up like memorizing the questions, I think, when you get a lot wrong. But like when you have something like that compared to an accounting course that both Kelly and I did, where every single week they gave you questions from the textbook, like maths questions basically, where you had to,
there was theory and practical problems as well.
Yeah, I feel like when you do that kind of homework, I don't know if homework's the right word. It sounds a bit like,
I didn't even really do it though.
Kids.
Like, to be fair, I had answers.
Oh, right, okay. Well, I actually
but even with the answers, like having to like write that out, like handwrite it.
Oh yeah. So
I actually still learned everything without reading the textbook, without watching lectures, because I did not read the textbook or watch lectures for accounting. Let's just say that. You can't
really get away with not doing a lot.
And I still got a distinction, so that's fine. Like,
what a smart queen.
No, I think it was just it was easy. Like,
it was quite easy actually.
And a lot of the questions came from a question bank.
Oh yeah. So what else I've noticed is that everyone actually takes the, like, I think like the first thing that people do is try to find the easy way out. And then if they can't find that, that's when they actually start to try themselves. Because with accounting especially, I haven't taken a lot of courses because I'm only first year. So I don't really have too much to say on this. But I do know that for accounting, it's so easy to get high marks because the course reuses the same questions, and someone had the brains to compile all these questions up and just hand it out to everyone. So you kind of know what's being asked and you know the answers beforehand.
Like, I think it's like, I'd say at least like around 60% of the multiple choice
60
questions you would have like answers to already from.
Right. And if not,
because I had multiple question banks.
Right, yeah. Plus the ones that I gave you from my one. So you had, yeah. And if not, they just change like the numbers up.
Year or the company.
Yeah, basically though.
They don't really change the numbers.
Oh.
Like the final answer is still going to be the same, or like it's just going to be like slightly different.
I can't really remember because I took it a while back. But yeah, like I do think that it's better to have like this weekly revision if it's if you're required to actually do some, I don't know, I think it's actually in terms of the content's different, because with accounting it was a lot like maths based, so you couldn't exactly just, like, you did have to learn the things.
Yeah, you did have to learn, like, all the formulas and how to, like, write a balance sheet and stuff. Like, you can't
memorize that
You can't
stuff.
Command F that, like...
Yeah.
Or Control F if you're on a Windows laptop.
I am on Windows.
Yeah. So, I'd say, like, I think my easiest course to, like, just not have to study for finals was computer science, because I haven't studied for any of the computer science finals. Like, the most I did was, like, flip through the slides to make sure I got everything down, because how computer science is structured at UNSW was, in a majority of the courses, like, there are gonna be courses that are, like, literally just one massive project, but in, like, a majority of, like, just the first few courses I've done so far, it's like you have a weekly lab and a weekly test, and your weekly lab will assess the stuff that you did in that week. Your weekly test will assess the stuff you did in the week before. And
so that makes it really helpful then.
Yeah, so, like, and you have to consistently be doing it to get the marks, because it's part of your final mark. And then there's 2 major assignments usually, which are basically solidify the biggest kind of components of the actual course. So, like, yeah, you can, if as long as you finish all of that, you generally don't have to really study for finals, because that actually covers every single concept you need to know, except for the stuff in the final week, because they don't have time to give you a lab and a weekly test for that. But, like, the stuff in the final week is either non-assessable or it's not really assessed that much, unless you're trying to attempt the impossible final question of the exam.
And something that you just mentioned, which reminded me of something that I found that was quite weird when I first got into uni, was, like, the weighting. You said before that, like, your weekly quizzes and tests for comp, they were all counted towards your final grade. And when I first heard that, like, everything is counted, like, every single thing that you do basically is counted towards your final grade, and a lot of the weighting is quite, like, a large amount. Like, it's normal to have, like, a 50%, 60% assignment.
Yeah.
I was kind of, like, worried about that at first. I was like, oh, this is going to have such a big impact on my overall grade. But after a while, I think I just stopped caring, or I just got used to it.
Instead, it's like, if you screw up one thing, it's really easy to recover your marks.
Wait, in high school or uni?
And I'd say, like, uni.
I had that.
I mean, like, I barely passed all my assessments during the term for one of my courses, and I still got a credit.
Yeah, because for one of my courses this term, I just passed the essay. That was it was a 40% essay, and I was so convinced that my final mark would be, like, either pass or, like, credit at most. But I ended up like, pushing myself back up there, and I think the only way I did it was through Control F again, which was for a 40% final.
Yeah, I think, like, in uni, I think, like, generally for some courses, like, a lot of them, like, have finals that are worth 50%, and the other 50% you can get those marks during the term. And I just say, try to get all the easy marks first, which is the stuff during the term.
Yeah, there are definitely courses where you can get easy marks.
I think just don't rely on being able to get 90% in finals.
Yeah. What do you think about participation marks, though?
Participation marks are so screwed up, because I've never seen anyone with a full marks in participation marks.
Are you sure? I have full marks in participation.
No, I literally participate every single week. I ask questions every single week. I get a 9 out of 10.
Okay, but because I think a lot of people have, like, varying views on participation marks. I don't like it, but for a very different reason, which is that I really like participating, so I know, I don't know, this might sound very like arrogant or like up myself, but I can like confidently say that I can get full marks for participation. But because there is a thing such as participation marks, it comes off as though I'm just
as you trying to get all your marks.
Yeah. And in a lot of the courses that I've done previously that had participation marks, the tutors would always say like, hey Flora, like you don't have to try anymore, like you've already gotten the marks, and
like let someone else try.
Yeah, so that's why I don't like it. But I know a lot of people don't like this because it forces them to talk and they don't want to.
I think it's like so many times I genuinely just don't have anything to say. Like I genuinely don't have any questions to ask. I genuinely just don't want to say anything. Like there's a lot of times where like, oh, the tutor asks a question and you're meant to answer it because like participation marks, but someone else has already said a really similar answer and you're like, what am I gonna do? Like if I don't answer, I'm gonna lose those marks. If I do answer, they're just gonna be like, oh, you copied this other person. Like I just don't like how participation marks makes you do something whether or not you have an answer to something. Like, oh, you should ask insightful questions. What if I already know what's happening and I don't need to ask any questions?
Yeah, that's why I feel like the system's a bit weirdly designed, because if it just marks you on like how much you speak up in class, it doesn't really work for people who kind of already know what they're doing, or for people who might be like really shy with like maybe like anxiety disorders or something like that.
Because it's just that some people are gonna need to ask questions, some people don't. Like you're gonna have a wide range of people in a tutorial at uni, and so, like I think some people just don't even need the tutorial to know the stuff. Some people do.
See, that's why...
And it depends on the course.
Like, that's why I think it's better...
Tutorial attendance shouldn't be compulsory.
I think it should be compulsory, though, because then people are just going to get... People are just going to get, like, lazy.
I didn't go to my... Like, I had a really nice tutor for comp sci last time. I didn't go to most of the tutes. Because, like, just looking at sample programs and, like, just doing my labs alone, I understood what was happening.
Actually, yeah.
So, I can see. I didn't need that to spend that extra, like, hour and a bit in the tutorial when I could just finish my lab. Like, at the beginning of the year when, like, tutes were still in person, like, everything was still in person before lockdown happened, I literally left my lab 2 hours early because I finished everything.
Because for accounting tutorials, I found it pretty useless too, because all we did was just mark the homework, which was then uploaded.
Go through answers, essentially.
Online.
Yeah. Well, like, to be fair, my tutor wrote his own answers, so they were slightly different, and he actually went through the methodology. So, like, I think that was useful to some people, but for me, I already if I'm able to do the homework, then I'm able to understand it anyway. So why do I need to listen to someone go through something I already know again, instead of me just having that time to work on something else? But then at the same time, it's like you're paying for that person to teach you that, so you should make the most of your money at the same time. Like, there's a balance.
That actually brings up a lot of good points. I have this paper with me and I've got so many things that I want to like go into, but I don't think we have the time for, because we planned for this episode to be around 45 minutes. We've got like 40 minutes so far. I don't know. I'm looking at my sheet. I'm like, I don't know what to talk about. But I have this weird way of thinking where like it's basically FOMO, like fear of missing out, of like on knowledge. So I attend every single...
Like, you're scared that like a tutor will go through something new or something that you...
Well, like, even if it's recorded, I'm scared like, oh, what if I have a question and I can't ask about it? And I know I always have I have access to like like discussion boards
forums,
and email and
chats.
group chats and all that. But like I just feel like I'm missing out on something if I'm not there in person. So
see, that's the thing. I'm so different because I never have any questions to ask anyway, and even if I do, I try to find it online, so I don't ever actually need to ask questions. So a lot of the times I just watch recordings. I don't go to live lectures because I don't have questions to ask.
Oh, right. But even in lectures, you don't always get a chance to ask questions anyway.
Comp sci lectures are ones where we get chances to ask questions.
Oh, okay.
And I never ask anything anyway. Because they always have like a couple tutors in the chat to answer stuff.
I do actually zone out during the lectures easily because it gets like 2 hours of just sitting there listening to someone speak. But at the same time, if I'm like doing it online, like watching a recording of it, I feel like I'm wasting my time just sitting there watching something, whereas I can
you just watch it? I annotate my slides.
Oh, do you do that?
Yeah, because that's what so here's a really bad or really good thing I do. So basically I print out my slides and I actually grab a pen and sticky notes and I start annotating the slides.
Actually, I think
and I look over that for finals. But the thing is, that the issue I have with that is that because I'm printing out the slides, I'm wasting a lot of paper and ink, and then essentially what I do with those is I turn those into notes anyway. So at the end of the term, they're useless to me because all of that stuff is summarized into notes, and I can just throw it away, and I do that. So basically I kind of throw everything out at the end of the year, and I just think that's a waste of paper. I kind of want to get an iPad because then I can annotate on the iPad, and then like I could split screen and write my notes and have that next to it. I think that's like one of the options I have to make it a lot better in terms of like saving money, because paper and printer ink is not cheap.
No.
Especially when you're using it to print out your slides and stuff. Like that uses a lot.
And it also like frustrates me. Only because my printer just doesn't cooperate like half the time. But
my printer's fine. It's just the toner's so expensive.
I think everyone should invest in printers if they have the money for that. Because
like I think printers are good. Just on heavy usage they get pretty expensive.
Because you can get printers for like really, really cheap now, but it's like the quality.
Yeah, it's like a couple $100 or like 100 and a bit.
It's so bad though. I'm pretty sure our one is around. It's a pretty cheap one because not many of us actually need to print things. But when I do, it takes around like, I swear, like 20 minutes to print. And there was one time when like I was just going through some stuff in my life and I just needed to like I forgot what even I don't know. I was just like either frustrated or sad about something. And I just happened to need to print something and it wouldn't work. And the second that it didn't work, I just went into like a breakdown. I was like, this is it. This is the end of the world. I can't print what I need to print. So, my tip is to avoid breakdowns. Get a good printer.
I think like I'd say liquid ink printers are kind of bad.
Yeah, I think we have that.
They don't last very long.
I think toners are better.
They don't last very long. They break down pretty quickly. Toners are better, but the toner's so expensive. And if you're not using it that much, it kind of evaporates. I don't know what happens, but like the capacity
I get
goes
what you
down.
mean. Does it get less opaque?
No, it just runs out quicker. Like over less, because like it says like it can print like 1,000 sheets or like 2,000 sheets, but like it runs out after like 500 or like a couple. Like it's like a couple hundred less than like what it's meant to.
I don't know if you know the answer
Sometimes,
to this,
I know.
but do you reckon it changes like the speed of printing time? Because my
No.
liquid one. It takes so long to just print out one page. But the one that my mum has at her office, toner, it's so quick. You just send it through and it's printed.
I think because liquid... The issue with liquid is I hate how it smudges when you highlight stuff sometimes.
I feel like we're getting a bit off topic here. Going to, okay, we should,
Okay, if anyone out there is able to afford an iPad, do it for uni. It's so much better when you want to annotate stuff, honestly.
And since our first episode is kind of coming towards an end, it's been, we've been recording for around 46 minutes now, but had a few.
We had little breaks in the middle of like 5 minutes. So I think total we'll have like 40-ish minutes of audio now.
Sure. But if you want to know a part two to this episode, just about like, because I think we both have a lot more to discuss about uni. Social life, because I think that's a very big part that got affected for us, especially because, okay, we shouldn't get too into this, but I think we will be.
Okay, I guess it will explain a lot about our name for this podcast.
Yeah, we briefly mentioned it in the introduction, and if you still haven't seen that, please watch it first and then come back to this. Well, we're already at the end, but yeah. So if you do like our podcast, please give it a like and a comment below and let us know how we can improve and what you like about this episode, as well as like some other advice that you would like to give other viewers. And
maybe if we do get some good advice, we'll read it out at the end of our episode.
If we even get like enough people, we could do like a you know how
Q&A.
like the cool kids do it? Q&A.
The cool kids.
Like, send in your questions. I don't actually watch too many podcasts, but I know that Ryan Higo has like Q&As. But also, he's much bigger than us. So, of course he would have. Okay.
Yes, he's an OG YouTuber.
Yeah. So please keep your notification bell on, because next week we will be having a new episode, and
it'll be all about friends.
We hope that you'll be there for that.
Or the lack of friends.
So thank you everyone for watching.
Yeah, thank you everyone for
and
listening.
We'll see you next week. Bye guys.
Bye.